So let's place the Planet X system into our own to get an idea of just how small it really is. When you consider that we left Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto out of the picture, the Planet X system really does look puny in comparison. Nonetheless, the question we hear more often than not is, why are all of our observations of the Planet X system near the Sun? For many, the assumption is that we should see the Planet X system in front of us as well as behind us once each year. So let's take a closer look at this assumption, which is based more on expectations than fact. To set a background for this comparison, let's use this illustration of our solar system as seen from deep space. That outer ball, which has a cutaway section in this illustration, is known as the Oort cloud, and it is made up of all the debris left over from the formation of our solar system. Occasionally, a comet flies in from deep space and passes through our solar system. Called rogue comets, these comets are fast movers, and if they keep their distance, they can avoid being captured by the gravity of our own Sun. At which point they fly right out the other side of our solar system, back into the pitch-black darkness of deep space, never to be seen again. Ergo, these rogue comets are what you might call the celestial freight trains. They've got a single-minded focus as to where they're going, and they just plow straight through. However, the Planet X system does not orbit our Sun like a predictable freight train. Rather, it orbits our Sun much like an airplane, on 3 axes: longitudinal, lateral, and vertical. Consequently, its movements are far more complex. To help us put that in context, we need to see how the Planet X system orbits our own Sun relative to our own view of the Sun and the Planet X system. To do that, we must begin at the ecliptic. This blue line stretching across the screen represents the ecliptic, which in a manner of speaking could be referred to as the Sun's equator, or more accurately as the plane of our solar system. Imagine this blue line representing the ecliptic begins at a point in the very center of the Sun, and then stretches out in a concentric ring to the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Using the observation reports we've published in previous YOWUSA.com videos, let's now plot the movement of Nemesis, the brown dwarf at the core of the Planet X system, relative to our own Sun and the ecliptic as seen from Earth. Here's where our estimate of Nemesis was in 2010, based on the observations of Nibiru from 2010 to 2013. And here we see where Nemesis was observed in May of 2013. We used these 2 reference points to create a rudimentary orbital path based on the fact that Nemesis is in a 3,600-year-long elliptical orbit around our Sun. And here we see estimates of where Nemesis will be at the end of this year on the opposite side of the Sun. This explains why we cannot see it at this time. However, Nemesis will come out from behind the Sun as it reaches its point of perihelion, that point in its orbit where it comes closest to our own Sun. So with this background in mind, we're ready to take on the question: why are we not seeing the Planet X system in front of us and behind us each year? With that, let's return to our deep space view of our solar system. Like an airplane that flies on 3 axes, the Planet X system essentially does the same. While it is bobbing up and down, so to speak, it is also orbiting around the Sun, and no differently than any of the other planets in our system. The bobbing up and down motion is straightforward, but in terms of moving sideways in orbit around the Sun, we need to look at the number of days it takes for the Planet X system to orbit our Sun, as it bobs up and down through our solar system. Let's begin with Earth, which we know takes 365 days to orbit the Sun. Even though the Planet X system is bobbing up and down, it also takes 380 days for this system to orbit around our Sun, Now we're ready to put it all together. To the left, we see a polar look-down view of Earth, Nemesis, and the Sun. To the right, we see a side view of our solar system from the ecliptic, with Earth on one side of the Sun and Nemesis on the other, which is why we cannot observe it at this time. Keeping that in mind, let's now change our point of view. To the left, we still have the look-down polar view, but to the right, we now have a frontal view as seen from Earth. Here we see Earth and Nemesis as they track around the Sun in 2010. In 2013, Earth is seen catching up because it has a shorter duration orbit around the Sun, and so Nemesis appears closer to the Sun. Here we see an approximation of where we presently are, with Nemesis being directly behind the Sun in 2014. And here we see Nemesis coming out from behind the Sun several months from now. And finally, here's where Earth will be relative to the Sun and Nemesis when Nemesis reaches its point of perihelion. To see the full range of motion, let's view a composite of all these points in space. Because Earth orbits the Sun every 365 days and Nemesis orbits the Sun every 380 days, Earth has slowly been gaining on Nemesis, and this is why the recent observations of Nemesis over the past few years have always placed it near the Sun from our point of view here on Earth. Nemesis is presently behind the Sun and unobservable, but interestingly enough, we have current observations of its three planets, Helion, Arbota, and Nibiru, and we're going to show them to you in the next part of our program, Planet X Observations. In this segment, you're going to see observation images of three planets in the Planet X system captured with National Data Buoy Center buoys located in the Gulf of Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. However, before we show you these observations, we need to address two issues to help put these observations into proper context. First, a common complaint we receive from people who live in large metropolitan areas that they are unable to observe objects in the Planet X system for themselves. There are two principal reasons for this. They do not look in the right direction at the right time, but more often, even if they do, chemtrail aerosols make it impossible for them to see objects in the Planet X system. The other issue is the planet of Venus. Because these observations are near the Sun, a simplistic debunking tactic is to say we are looking at Venus. The first two images we will present are from station 46061 in the Bay of Alaska between the Montague and Hinchinbrook Islands. Our first observation is for September 29, 2014, and in the panel at the top of the screen we see 5 images. These panel images are usually taken about an hour apart, and the timestamp usually refers to the last image in the panel, with the time being noted in UTC. Here, our image of interest is second from the right. This object appears to the left of the Sun from the horizon, where Venus is much further over to the right of the Sun. However, when you look at this object in the lower left-hand panel, it clearly shows a full face. Next is an image captured on September 30th, 2014, and it is in the center of the panel. Here, Venus is a good distance from the Sun, although both objects are to the right of the Sun from the horizon. Yet once again, we clearly see an object with a full face. Next, we're going to show you a series of 5 images captured from the National Data Buoy Center Station 42040, located 64 nautical miles south of Dauphin Island, Alabama, in the Gulf of Mexico. Our first image from this buoy is on October 4, 2014, and it is the first image to the left. Here we see Venus is closer to the Sun, yet the object captured in this panel displays a full face. Next is October 5, 2014, the following day. Here we see a well-defined full face on the object. Our next Gulf of Mexico observation is on October 6, 2014, and once again we see an object with a full face. Our sixth image panel was acquired on October 8, 2014, and while a passing cloud interferes with the image, the distance between Venus and the Sun is considerable. Our last panel was taken on October 12, 2014, and even though this object is very close to the Sun, it still exhibits a very clear and distinguished full face. The planet Nibiru was first observed from the Gulf of Mexico on October 4, 2014, then again by the same buoy on October 6, 2014, and yet once again from the same buoy on October 8th. Now that you've seen these images, you might be doing what many Americans do when they look at a picture of a UFO. They just say, "I can't believe my eyes." If so, keep the following in mind. When the time comes that everyone can see these objects with their own eyes, regardless of the chemtrail aerosols, the fear that will clutch at the throats of many will not be because of what they see in the sky. Rather, it will be the realization that they are not prepared for what they see in the sky. And being prepared is really what it's all about. No nation on Earth, no matter how wealthy or advanced, will be able to escape the cataclysms to come. And with that, now comes the really bad news. When we see this alignment of the Planet X system, Nemesis will have reached its point of perihelion, which is its closest distance to the Sun. After that, it turns south into the outbound leg of its orbit. From this time forward, events far worse than the Deep Impact event will unfold, to include a pole shift. Simply put, these events will brutalize us and our world. So the question now is, what do we do about it? Because when we do see Nemesis at perihelion, there will only be two kinds of people in the world: those who are prepared and those who are not. In my postscript, which follows next, I'm going to address that very point and what I intend to do about it. I began researching Planet X in 2001 and published my first article on the topic of Planet X in January 2002. Over the years, I and my fellow researchers have always treated the topic as a threshold risk issue. However, with the release of Being in It for the Species and this video, that has changed. We at YOWUSA.com now view Planet X as a clear and present danger. Therefore, the conversation about it has changed from, "Will it come in our lifetime?" to, "How will we survive it?" Keep in mind, many of us will, so the consequences are much larger than mere survival itself. Humanity will survive this flyby as it has others in the past. I will now devote myself to survival wellness advocacy and join with like-minded others in the peaceful pursuit of a noble destiny where the meek truly do inherit the earth. If you feel the same noble calling to be in it for the species, then you are my brother. You are my sister. Let us move forward together. To learn more about the tribulation projections, visit beinginitforthespecies.com or YOWUSA.com.